Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be reviewing my late winter book haul. Oop, let's not drop them. I have quite a bit that I'm going to be reading. I do tend to read more in the winter than I do in like the spring, summer when it starts to get warmer. So I know that this is probably going to be one of the last few reading pushes I'm going to do before I taper off my reading for the summer. I do still read in the summer, but just not as much because I like to be outside. So let's talk about what I am going to be reading. The first book I have here is part of my Hugo Award finalists and winners challenge series that I'm doing, and this is Dragonflight by Mccaffrey. So this book actually has two parts. The first part is Where Search, which I've actually already read, and the second part is the Dragonflight, which is here, which I still need to read. So I'm going to be reading this part 2 Dragonflight section, and this was the, I think it was the winner of one of the Hugo Awards. So I'm going to need to double check, but it is on my list of things that I need to read. It is a little bit older, you can tell by the way the book looks and the way that the pages have yellowed, but I'm excited to read this and I'm glad that my library had this book. So Dragonflight by Mccaffrey, specifically part 2, is what I'm going to be reading. Next up is a series that, okay, I've technically read this volume already, but I didn't continue the series, but my sisters really want me to read this series, and that is Komi Can't Communicate, Volume 1. So I got this volume out at the same time that I got out Volume 1 of No Matter How I Look at It, It's You Guys' Fault, I'm Not Popular. I got this out a couple years ago when I lived in a different library system, and I wound up reading No Matter How I Look at It, It's You Guys' Fault, I'm Not Popular. I actually really liked the first volume of Komi Can't Communicate, but because I had more volumes available of No Matter How I Look at It, It's You Guys' Fault, I'm Not Popular, I went down the route of reading that series. So now I'm going back and reading this series. I need to reread Volume 1. I kind of remember the premise, but I do need to reread it because I am interested in reading this series. Both of my sisters love this series. They think it's great, so I'm excited to read this and get on board so I can actually talk to my sisters about this series. I'm also going to be reading and reviewing a lot of manga in March, so if you like manga, stay tuned because I'm going to be reading this, among other things. Leave your suggestions in the comments below. The next books I got are volumes 3 and 4 of Solo Leveling. So I read volumes 1 and 2 of Solo Leveling. I'm now going to be reading volumes 3 and 4. Here's what their covers look like. These follow Jinwoo, who is a hunter. So in this world or this alternate universe, there are portals or doors that open to dungeons, and there's hunters who go clear them. Jinwoo is one of those hunters. He started out being very weak, but there seems to be a mysterious force that is interested and invested in him leveling up and becoming more strong. So I'm interested in seeing where this series goes. I liked volumes 1 and 2. They read pretty quickly as well, so I'm looking forward to volumes 3 and 4. I also liked the art in them. And yeah, I'm glad that the library had these volumes available. The next two I got are more like local history. Well, like local as in they're very small scale history of a local place, as opposed to overarching history like American Civil War or World War II or Cold War. So they're much more granular, I would say. The first one is Local Wonders. And this is a writer talking about life in southeastern Nebraska. Now, for those of you not familiar with the United States, this yellow state right here is Nebraska. It's kind of, I think, outside of my camera frame, but I've been to Nebraska. It's a very, very pretty place. I actually really liked it. I feel like a lot of people think it's more of like a flyover state, but I'm interested in seeing the perspective of someone who lived here, who grew up here. At least I believe he grew up here, his thoughts and opinions on living there. So yeah, Ted Kuzer's Local Wonders. I'm excited to read this and see what he has to say. It's kind of short and it looks like it's just little essays. So yeah, I'm excited to read this. In the same vein as Local Wonders, I have, let me remove my bookmark, Growing Up in Iowa. So this is definitely an older book, and I personally find that something that's unavoidable when you write a book is it's going to age, time's going to pass, and sometimes things can become outdated. This book, as far as I understand, it says reminisces of 14 Iowa authors. So these are 14 people who grew up in Iowa who are talking about their time growing up in Iowa. Normally, when we're writing about things as an age, things become out of date, but something that I think is actually a positive for this book is its age. So this was copyrighted in 1978, and I think what's interesting is if you talk to people who grew up, who had a perspective of growing up in 1978, their memories at that time would be reaching back much further than maybe people who we would talk to today about growing up in Iowa. I'm going to have to go out and guess that a number of these authors have since passed away, so it's interesting to have a perspective that maybe we no longer have, or these people's perspective reach back further in history than maybe someone who is writing today would. So I think in this case, age is actually going to be a huge benefit, and that's what makes me most interested about this book, just getting a slightly older perspective. It does look like a bunch of little essays, but I am excited to read it. I don't know if I've heard of any of these authors before, but I'm excited to experience a bunch of different writing styles, also learn about an area of the country. I think Iowa's beautiful. I visited Iowa too. I just think it's going to be interesting, and also the age is going to be a benefit, a positive factor of this book instead of a negative, like I feel like sometimes it can be with books where the age of the book contributes to maybe it being a little bit out of date. So these two are more like local history, a little bit more granular in their subject matter, but I'm interested to read both of these. Next up, we have Robert Silverberg, Phases of the Moon, Stories from 6 Decades. I got this book out because there's one story in here that's on my list to read for the Hugo Award winners and finalists. I don't actually remember which one it was. It may have been Night Wings. I'm going to have to consult my list. I do not know if I'm going to read all of the short stories in this collection. I'm probably just going to read the one I need to, but this was the book that had the story in it. I checked when I was in the library. It is kind of big. If you're a Robert Silverberg fan, then perhaps Phases of the Moon would interest you. I'm going to be reading the story that I need to. This man on the cover is a little spooky, but I have been enjoying Robert Silverberg. He did Hawksbill Station, which I've read, and I'm currently reading Man in the Maze, which I'm also really, really enjoying. So I'm excited for Robert Silverberg. I'm glad that I've been introduced to his works, and I'm interested to see the story that he puts out in this book. This is also a collection, it says again, from 6 decades, so it begins in the 1950s and goes through the 2000s, so it does cover a wide range of time. If you're looking for a collection of Robert Silverberg short stories that cover a wide range of time, this might be the book for you. The next two, I'm going to show the inside cover of, because they were books that I ordered from a different library through like the interstate library system, so I can order from basically any other state, any other library in my state, and get the books sent to my library. And these, so when they do that, they put like all my personal information on a sticker on the front of the book. So I'm just going to show you the inside cover. Otherwise, I'm going to have to find some creative way to cover that up. Well, I guess I can like do this. So this first book is Rankafu Orchid Print Album. And this is a book that contains prints. I know it looks weird with me covering it up, but that has just my information on the front. This has books of prints of orchids, kind of as it says. I believe this was a combination of an artist and then some people who started like an orchid horticulture craze in Japan. I'm really interested in learning about it. It seems part history because there are some essays in the front along with the art. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting book to read. I'm not really sure what to expect, but I am excited to see what this book holds. And I'll find some sticky note to put on the cover so I can kind of show the cover better. They like really tape that thing down so it's harder to remove. This other one was called, let's get it, The Beauty of the Moment. Again, they put the sticker on the cover, but it's women in woodblock prints. So this book is, as advertised, women depicted in woodblock prints in Japanese art. This book is also written in German, so it's the first, for each of these paragraphs, they first print it in German before printing it in English. So if German is a language you are more familiar with or more comfortable with, it's right here, and that could be something that could be beneficial for you. For me, it is just going to be good practice for me to read the German, and I'll have the English there because obviously English is my native language. To help me when I come across words in German that I do not know. And because this is a lot to do with like art critique, I think there's going to be a lot of words that I don't know. But I am interested in looking at the art. This isn't just like an exercise in my German. This is also going to be really interesting art. I've been loving the woodblock print books that I have been reading, I don't know what to call it. And I'm excited to see what this one has. And I like that it's focused. I like getting books that are focused on an artist or a topic because I feel like it just kind of focuses my attention for the span of the book. So I'm really interested in this one and seeing what it has in store. So those were the books that I am going to be reading. Let me see if I can pull these together real quick. I would love to know what you're reading in this late winter time, if you have winter where you live. I know some people do not have winter right now. Some people don't have winter ever. I'm looking at you, Florida. You guys never have winter, I feel like. But for those of us who do, what are you reading during this time? This is what I'm reading, and I am excited to start working through this list and working through everything that I still have at home. If any of these seemed interesting to you, I will be giving reviews on these, so stay tuned on my channel. If you're interested in manga, I'm going to be reading a ton of manga in March, so stay tuned. Give me your suggestions, give me your recommendations. I would love to receive them. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.